What's up, students? This is Miss Trivet. We are doing lesson 2 from chapter 6 today. This one is all about comparing and ordering integers. So our green textbooks should be open to page 256. We'll start with our learning target, which says, I can compare and order integers. Now, when we compare things in math, we're usually using the symbols greater than, less than, or equal to. So remember, this is called the greater than symbol. This one here is called the less than symbol. And then we have the equal to symbol. Remember, this is called a greater than symbol because if you're reading a number sentence from left to right, the left item would be greater than the right item. This is the less than symbol because if we're reading from left to right, like we read a book, this side is going to be less than this side. So that's why they're called that. And then, of course, equal, meaning they're both equal or equivalent. So there's nothing really more than that to talk about before we get right into our examples. So we'll get kicking here. Example 1, saying comparing integers on a horizontal number line. So we have compare 2 and -6, and they give us a horizontal number line, horizontal meaning right to left. We have a 0, then we have a 1, 2, 6. So I'm just going to make the tick marks and then show that this is going to be a -6. And then I have 1, 2. Here's going to be our +2. So that's the question. When we're comparing, we're just deciding what symbol are we going to put in between them. So if I have my 2 and I have my -6, 2 is to the right farther than -6, and it's going to be greater. So we're going to use the greater than symbol in between. And that's it for example 1. Pretty simple. Next, we'll move on to example 2. And same idea, but we're going to be working on comparing vertical number lines. So this one says compare -5 and -3. And then we have a vertical number line, meaning going up and down. So let's put this as our 0. And remember, numbers up are going to be positive, numbers down are going to be negative. So here's -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. It's going to be on this line. I wrote that a little bit too high. So this line down here is -5. So if we're trying to figure out which one is greater than, which one is less than, whichever one is higher up on a vertical number line is going to be bigger. So if I have the number sentence -5 and -3, and we're trying to figure out what goes in the middle, -5 is lower, so it's going to be less than. So we're going to use the less than symbol for this one. From there, we'll pause the video if you need a couple extra practice ones. Almost at the bottom of the page, you'll see the on your owns on page 256. Okay, if you tried those 3, number 1 should be the greater than symbol, the mouth opening to the left. Number 2 is the less than symbol, the mouth opening to the right. And number 3 is the less than symbol, the mouth opening to the right. Moving on to example 3. Okay, this one says ordering integers. They want us to order some integers, and they say from least to greatest. So here are our directions. We have -4, 3, 0, -1, -2. And the biggest thing on these kind is make sure you know if they want it least to greatest or greatest to least. They want least to greatest. That right there is the biggest mistake a lot of kids will make, is they will forget that part and just decide which kind of direction they're going to go in rather than doing it the way that the directions are asking. So you can put these on a number line if that helps you think about them. So here's my little number line. I'm going to start with the 0. So let's put a spot for 0. And then -1 is really close to the 0, so we can plot -1. There's my 0, there's my -1. -2 is farther down. And then we don't have a -3, but we do have a -4. So that would be -3. This is going to be -4. And then the other number in our list is a +3. That's going to be to the right. So if I'm ordering from least to greatest, I'm going to start with the farthest one to the left and then list them all the way to the right. So our lowest one would be -4. Then we have a -2. Then we have a 1. Then we have a 0. And then last we have a 3. So that is our correct order from least to greatest. Okay, looking at page 257, where we have example 4 sitting there. Switch colors. Let's do this one. All right, this one's more of a reasoning thing. It says a number is greater than -8 and less than 0. What is the greatest possible integer value of this number? So this mystery number we have, so we can call it X or some kind of mystery number. So we have a number is greater than -8. So we can use the greater than symbol and a -8. Number is greater than -8, and it's also less than 0. So we know that the number is less than 0. Start a new page here and continue on. There are many possible numbers that would fit in that category, but the directions say what is the greatest possible integer. So we want greatest possible integer that would fit in those categories. So if we have a little number line over here and we put a 0 on it, we can put the 0 over here because I know I'm going to have to put a -8 here. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can make that an 8. So 0 to -8 on our little number line here. It has to be bigger than this, so it has to kind of be in this little section right here. So if I want the greatest possible integer, a lot of kids would circle this one here because it's closest to 8. But remember, negative numbers kind of work backwards. The farthest to the right we go, it's going to be bigger. So we want to go all the way to the right and look at our possibilities that they list for us. They list A, -10, B, -7, C, -1, or D, +2. So if we take a look at that, choice A they give us is -10. -10 isn't even within this window, so it cannot be -10. Choice B they give us is -7. And -7 is in this window, but it would be right here. So that's a possibility. Let's see what the other choices are that they give us. Choice C says -1, and that is within our possibilities. And then choice D is +2. And +2 would be outside of this section, so that would not work. So we can cross off those two. So if we want the one farthest to the right, it's the greatest. We're going to go with -1 as our final answer. That's the greatest possible integer within that range. And we're moving on to example 5. All right, this one is more of a real-life application. It says the diagram shows the coldest recorded temperatures for several cities in Virginia. And if we look at those are pretty cold temperatures. Question A says, which city has the coldest recorded temperature? And then question B, has a negative Fahrenheit temperature ever been recorded on Wallops Island? And explain. So if we take a look at our map there, we have all of these places listed with their numbers. So let's go ahead and list those out in our notes. And we can actually list them out in order. That would help us kind of organize our thinking. So if we look at all of our numbers there, the highest temperature is Wallops Island. So we can list that one first. Wallops Island has a 0 degrees Fahrenheit temperature. Then if we look at the next highest temperature, it's going to actually be Norfolk. And that one is a -3 degrees Fahrenheit. Still pretty cold. The next highest temperature is going to be Lynchburg. And that one has a temperature of -10 degrees Fahrenheit. Then we have 2 left, and the next one's going to be Roanoke. And that's going to be -11 degrees Fahrenheit. And lastly, we have Richmond with a whopping -12 degrees Fahrenheit. So going back to the questions they're asking us, question A says, which city has the coldest recorded temperature? So if this were a vertical number line, the one that's farthest to the lowest is going to be Richmond. So that's going to be the coldest, because it would be farthest down on our vertical number line. And then question B says, has a negative Fahrenheit temperature ever been recorded on Wallops Island? Well, here's Wallops Island. And if we look back at the directions, it says these are the coldest recorded temperatures for several cities. So 0 would be the farthest or the lowest temperature that it's ever been recorded. So for question B, we have never gotten to a negative here because 0 is the lowest. So we're going to say no, 0 degrees is the lowest that they've ever recorded. And we're finished with those. Go ahead and pause the video to get some more practice. On the bottom of 257, you'll see a few on your own. Okay, so for number 4, if you tried that one, ordering those numbers, the correct order from least to greatest should be -3, -2, -1, +1, +3. For number 5, the order is -8, -7, +1, +4, and 6. And then number 6, the answer would be -7. For number 7, the answers would be -9, -8, -7, -6, -5, -4. And that's the end of lesson 2 for chapter 6.